Can anyone hear me?
No. Yes, sir. So hi, everybody, and welcome to another session for San Antonio Startup Week. I'm really excited for you all to hear from these amazing individual companies that are working from the Geekdom space here to tell you a little bit about what they're up to. Before we get started, I just wanted to say a few things. Part of our mission here at Geekdom is to help startups launch. And the way that we do that is help them cultivate, shape, and grow their ideas into viable businesses that are ready for the next level. And what you're about to hear from today are some great companies doing great things in their own industries. And I'm super excited for you to hear from them. And I'm also super excited for you to hear from our moderator, Alberto Piña, who is an individual who came into the space, went through all those stages on his own, navigated these waters by himself with his team, and is doing amazing things. And we're super excited to have you back in the space, Alberto, and super excited for you to be doing this this panel. I can't say thank you enough. But without further ado, I'll pass it off to you, Alberto, and let you introduce the companies and let you guys kick it off from here. I just wanted to say thank you to all of you.
Right. Yeah, I'm excited to do it. I've never been on this side of the table on one of these. So if I mess it up, it's my first time. Bear with me. But I think to start us off, just kind of wanted to go around the panel, let everybody introduce themselves and then what their company is all about. So Terry, we'll start with you. What are you and your team at Wiser working on? Yeah, you're muted, bud.
All right, can you hear me now? All
Yes,
right,
sir.
cool.
All right.
Yeah. So Terry French here, representing Wiser, and Wiser is basically reintroducing a new space, which is called social technology. As we grow into this space, we kind of develop a definition of it, but basically social technology is the influence of technology into social processes. So it plays a big role into what the current pandemic and everything. So yeah, as time goes on, we kind of develop that definition and bring more innovative ways to include the tap-in that we use here. You can see the tap-in down at the event center here on the 7th floor. And tap-in stands for Technical Access Point Information Network. And it's a great way to, I guess, introduce social hardware, right? We're all used to social software, like social media, so on and so forth, like even Zoom maybe. So social hardware, we're introducing the tap-in. So yeah, that's what we're doing here. We're fresh on the scene, making great things happen, and really enjoying the cooperation that we get here from Geekdom, the support from Geekdom, the city, the community, District 1, whole 9 yards.
Yeah, it's definitely a special place. And anybody that's coming in, as you check in on the 7th floor, when you use the NFC tap in they've got down there to fill out the check-in and whatnot, that's actually one of your products, right? That's a Wiser product down there?
Yes, sir. That's our flagship product right there.
Very cool. All right, next up we got Max. Max, I know we're neighbors on the 8th floor. I haven't formally met you.
Yeah.
But nice what are you and your team at Went Out working out?
Okay, so we are a new architecture of social networking, which built to stimulate meaningful use and place the user behind the wheel. It's a worldwide community for aspiring and established entrepreneurs to grow, learn, succeed in every desired field.
Very cool.
Yeah, I moved.
And we'll definitely want to get with you here in a minute and really find out what brought you to San Antonio and Geekdom specifically. But real quick, we've got Christie from Symbio Hush. What are you and your team working on, Christie? Christie, you're muted too. There you go. Now? It's 2020, y'all. Get used to it.
What's up, everyone? I guess the better question is, what are we not working on? You know, Symbio Hush, we've evolved quite a lot over the pandemic and over this past couple of years. And I know formerly you guys kind of know us as the down market, but, you know, we're reshaping what collaboration means in the creative industry. We are pushing community over everything and making sure that, you know, transparency and the processes that we have internally are as effective as possible. So we're working on a lot of us right now while we're building everyone that we're collaborating with. And we're just so fortunate to be a part of the Geekdom community and be able to do things, you know, such as cover the Startup Week and work with you guys to make this happen. It's been really, really awesome.
Very cool. And last but not least, we got Ken from Decentralized Web Technologies, DWeb for short. What are you and the team working on, Ken?
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. So basically, big picture, where our company is about, it's about implementing technologies around what's called a decentralized internet, which specifically means peer-to-peer network. What's that? That's a network where all the devices participate in storing and transmitting and sending data. So specifically, the industry we're focusing on is IoT, smart devices. So we're building out a network of hotspots that provide connectivity to smart devices. All hotspots are linked on a blockchain system. We actually managed to set up a few in the Geekdom community space. And we're also acting as a reseller for smart devices as well that operate on that same network.
Very cool. Is it y'all that have the kind of the antennas stuck on the windows on the 8th floor?
That is us, yes.
All right. I thought that might be y'all. Well, very cool. I think what I was most excited about on this panel is each of y'all and your teams are at different stages of the journey. And if you're listening as in the audience here, you know, startups all go through different stages. What it takes from the team and the individual to go through these stages really changes at every part of it. So I guess we'll go in reverse order. Ken, what stage would you say you and the team are at, and what's it like to be in that stage of your journey right
now? I would say right now we're in the growth stage. So we have, you know, 2 MVPs. I mentioned the hotspots and the smart devices, and we're in the process of deploying them. And you know, we're in a position where we're sustaining ourselves as a company. So we're good as far as that goes. So the thing is, it's just taking the tech we have and scaling it up. So, and
you
know,
that's a huge milestone to get to the point where I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No.
But you said you're sustainable as a company, you're sustaining yourself, and that is certainly a milestone to be celebrated. What was it like getting to that stage?
I'd say we got to that stage about a month ago, and it was pretty interesting process because we actually started up officially in March, right before COVID hit. So you know, we've been working, and fortunately, it's an industry that's not affected too much or in too much of a downturn, you know, because of the economic issues around that. You know, so it was a pretty cool feeling, you know, having been able to accomplish that in this type of environment.
Very cool. And Christie, how about y'all at Symbio Hush? I was on the website, so y'all got definitely some big name clients, including San Antonio Startup Week. But what about y'all? What stage of the process are you and the team at right now?
Really great question. Interesting enough, I think we kind of went backwards when it came to growing. Because we started in the creative industry, we kind of truly like perfected our skills in terms of building culture and what that means to people and building diversity and growing upon that. And like I said, it always goes back to community. And I think now where we are, you know, we've been around, this is going on our 4th year, but we truly really started pushing outward and really more so outbound. It was in April of this year. So yes, puts us around the pandemic. But, you know, we've experienced a lot of growth and we're so blessed for that. And especially during times that we're trying and unpredictable, we were really fortunate to have these people in our network who are still here wanting to support each other and kind of build that foundation for us. So right now, I think where we are, you know, internally is going back to those processes and being able to build out an effective system that we can then multiply so we can, you know, put on more work and build our bandwidth and truly scale up from there.
Very cool. And in the startup world, to survive as a business for 4 years, again, it's definitely something to celebrate. For anybody listening that maybe is just getting started, is there anything you can recall from back at the beginning that was just, I guess, super impactful to making sure y'all's team was able to survive and make it the 4 years?
Actually, that happened quite recently in terms of what that impactful moment was. And my partner in the company will hate me if I share the story, but it was actually around this time last year that, you know, we really had a enlightenment session, I guess, where we kind of both sat down and we were just like, you know, we've been working on, you know, content and perfecting this. And I feel like we really actually have a solid team that really wants to take things to the next level, and just why aren't we doing that? And, you know, after a really passionate conversation, we were just like, you know what, like, now's the time to do it. And so we took that time till what we were projecting of April 2020 to really launch it. And then from there, you know, it's just my advice to the people who are starting off is making sure you surround yourself with people who are like-minded, who are as passionate and driven as you and as determined. You know, when you're by yourself, you can only get so far. And then when you surround yourself with these people, you become a force to be reckoned with. And when you find those people, there's no stopping you, really.
Yeah, love it. All right, Max, how about y'all at Win Out? What stage of the journey are you and the team on?
We are at the initial stage, which I call the survival stage, which you are doing everything you can not to die.
Yeah.
This is the stage. So we are trying to get more traction and get more users to the platform.
Very cool. And I think, you know, most founders will agree, as chaotic as it is at the beginning, that those are some of the funnest times once you're not in it, right? It's definitely hectic and chaotic and mind-racking when you're in the middle of it. But how did you, what led to you wanting to start the company, Max? Before Win Out was started, what kind of transition from idea to, I'm going to go build this thing?
I tried 4 different industries: music, beauty, e-commerce, and I really thought with myself what will bring value to people, and we want to create a great future, to invite millennials to get more into entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurs, the current ones, I mean, somebody needs to replace them, and entrepreneurs just changing the world, and we need more of them. So that's the idea. That's how I came with that idea.
Nice. And any advice for anybody in the audience that's kind of on the fence of, I've got an idea, but I haven't started yet, to just getting going? Just
start. Even simple, just emails, newsletter, something, a landing page. But the most, which I realized a little bit late, that the most important thing is to grow audience before you developing the product. That's why YouTube channels do. They grow in the community, they release a product no matter what, but they have already the traction, which is really smart. So, audience.
Yeah, that's good advice. Just get going, right?
Get going.
And Terry, I know we're all using the Wiser product to check in anytime we come to Geekdom.
Sure.
But I'm curious to learn about your company, your team too. What stage of the journey are y'all at?
I'd have to say we're at the breakthrough stage. The current objective is market education and market adoption, right? So right now, working on executing some strategies to bring social technology to the forefront, so everyone can understand what it is when they see it. They can acknowledge it when they see the Wiser logo, and to instill trust, to bring trust to the market and trust to this, because this is a very customer-facing, public-facing product. And so we want to let everyone understand that their security, cybersecurity, and their best interests are our best interests here at Wiser. So we're going to be the most secure. Critical infrastructure is our number one priority here. And yeah, so we're at the breakthrough stage, market education, market adoption, and we're hammering away at it right now.
That's awesome. I think sometimes getting people to actually try what it is we're building are some of the toughest things. Are y'all finding that it's easier now in an environment where we're all afraid to touch different things?
Oh man, yeah. I've done a few field tests, beta testing out there, and I'm standing there with a tap in on top of a pole. We kind of nicknamed it the beta pole. So I'm just standing out there, various places, and I kind of take note and I observe what happened and the reactions from people. So it's like real time data, like real quality data. Couples of various types, individuals, just patrons, just odd places, and I get the feedback, and that was one of them, and that kind of like validated the need to instill like security and to take it, just take it very serious. Like this for us is life or death, and this can potentially help mitigate the effect of COVID-19 on the economy, and it's just. Now we're just at a time just waiting for it to be proven and for it to prove itself. So we're at the breakthrough stage with all that.
That's awesome. That's an exciting time when you're watching people use your product, and sometimes it's a little heartbreaking, but that's the feedback that helps us get better, right?
Yes, sir. You know it.
Well, everybody on this panel is part of the Geekdom community here, and it's of course a little different now, but now with the testing, we're all starting to trickle back into the building. But for those in the audience or those that are going to see this later, why Geekdom, why San Antonio, and what brought you or made you want to be a part of this community? I guess Christie, if you don't mind starting us off, why Geekdom and why this community?
Of course. And I'll kind of use my own feedback on how I envision the community and why I was really excited for the team to move into Geekdom. And it really was because of the times, right? At first, when I learned about Geekdom, when we first covered the San Antonio Startup Week, I was first completely amazed at how busy the entrepreneur community was in San Antonio. I had no idea, really. And so, seeing it grow and kind of keeping an eye on it over the past year, when the pandemic hit, it suddenly wasn't just like a location anymore. And not that was the intention to begin with, right? But then Geekdom became something that was untangible. It became a community online. It became a place where people who weren't in San Antonio, right, or nowhere near downtown and surrounding areas could say, hey, I want to be a member because of the resources and these online panels, exactly what we're doing right now, these conversations that are happening regardless if you're in person or not. And I think it's absolutely phenomenal what Geekdom has done to try to curb, the spread of the virus by having its, intensive testing. That was really crazy to experience, but super beneficial. But I think it goes beyond past that. And so for me, being a part of Geekdom community was, being a part of something that was progressive, that was innovative, that really fell along the lines of what I value when it comes to being a part of a community. And for me, that's why I was really excited to be a part of Geekdom.
That's awesome. Yeah, and you're 100% right. It's definitely more than a building. And I think what Charles and the team has done after everybody went in lockdown from March on to make sure the community stayed together, we kept learning from each other and keep doing panels like this has been awesome. What about you, Ken? Why Geekdom? Why the community? What brought you here?
Yeah, so when it comes to Geekdom, I learned about Geekdom when I first started getting involved with different professional networking organizations here in town about 4 years ago. And, it was pretty obvious that Geekdom was at the center of like the San Antonio tech industry and entrepreneurship, et cetera, just because you heard the name all the time, right? And
right.
Yeah, and I had meetings with a few friends in the Geekdom office. And, what I love about it is just the support from the community, how open and supportive everyone is. It's like you could throw out an idea and someone's like, hey, I know someone else who could help you with that, and they connect you. And so, it's the perfect place to go and get connected to the wider, tech industry in the city.
Yeah, 100%. Max, I'm gonna ask you the same question, but before we go to Geekdom, why Texas? Why San Antonio, and then why Geekdom, right? You're all the way from Israel. What brought you down here?
Yeah, I have a different story than yours because I'm coming from the other side of the world. And
Yeah.
I moved from Israel to San Antonio 4 months ago. And I just wanted to achieve the American dream, as funny as it sounds. But that's why immigrants come into here, because they have the desire and they appreciate the gold that you have here. And they are just coming to collect the gold because most Americans don't do it. So I went to Texas. I heard great things about Texas. And I moved to San Antonio because of Geekdom. I searched for a co-working space, a place that I can work and be surrounded like-minded people, and I found Geekdom. So I didn't even contact Geekdom, nothing. I just came here, went to Geekdom, signed it up, and started working. That's it.
Man, that is a giant leap across a giant ocean to come find your place. Now that you're here, is it what you thought it was going to be when you decided to take a trip?
Even better.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, very cool. And you Terry, what brought you to Geekdom, and what has your experience been like in the community?
Man, that's a big one right there. I have to be nothing but honest with you. Just imagine a lady in labor, not pregnant, but in labor, and she's walking down Houston Street. And she got to find somewhere to have the baby, right? Somewhere safe. And I was pretty much that lady walking down Houston Street. I'm testing out technologies, just coming from a different industry, government contracting, and I'm trying to have a baby. The baby is social technology. That we kind of just found out. So when I walked into Geekdom actually is the hospital, right? You know what I'm saying? Like my first time, I never forget. The first time I opened the door on the 7th floor, it was John. He was right there. And then I remember Charles was over by the desk, and Brooke and Leslie. Everybody was just there, and even Joyce, and I'll never forget the moment I walked in. It was like, man, I'm about to have a baby. John was like, come here, let's deliver this baby. So for me, Geekdom is just the place to have that baby. Like, you're an entrepreneur, you're in labor, you're going through this Pentecostal stage of life where, it's just the left foot over the right foot, and when you get to Geekdom, it's that sanctuary where you can, that hospital where you can produce. You know what I mean?
That's awesome. I think to anybody other than entrepreneurs, that might sound a little nuts, but I know, Bralston's my baby. And when you're starting a company, it's your baby, right?
So,
so Terry, what's a typical day in the life look like behind you and the team there?
Man, okay, well, I mean, a typical day is basically, I can tell you my routine, right? My routine consists of basically everything that I learned when I was in the military. My background is in communications of the United States Army Signal Corps. So basically, when I get up in the morning, I do some type of physical fitness, and then I make my way into the office as soon as possible. And I just start working on the objectives. Like, currently, the objectives is market education and market adoption. So I'm working on these different curriculums and scheduling and coordinating and even touching on some social media stuff with some graphics. But working on curriculum, I'll get in, I'll just punch it out. Then I'll knock out a couple hours of actual corporate paperwork. corporate documentations, any applications I have to file for, anything moving forward to help accomplish the objectives. And then usually here at Geekdom, the best thing to do, I'd say, as a startup, and a couple other startups do the same thing. You just go out and walk. You know, like this is the market. Like you're not just at, you know, you're not just somewhere, you know, in the office, but you're at a place where you can actually, you know, you're the scientist. You can magic school bus yourself into your environment, into where you want to deploy it. So I actually go out and I hit the market. I knock on doors. I get close to the whole community, the business community, the residential community. Sometimes I end up way on the south side and come on back here, sit down, you know, wipe off the sweat because it's about 100 and some degrees in the middle of the summer. And, you know, I just grab my pencil and paper and start hacking at it again, you know, and then wake up next day, rinse and repeat. That's it.
That's awesome. What about you, Max? What's a typical day in the life look like for you and your team right now?
Well, my routine is I wake up at 4 a.m., exercise, reading a book, and by 7, go to the office. And my first 4 or 5 hours at the office are dedicated to my one thing, which is coding, product development. It's my most productive hours. So I'm doing the most important thing for me. Then I just emails, learning English, and marketing, persuading investors, business related. That's it.
That's a lot. You know, you make it sound like it's just a couple little things, but that's a whole bunch of plates piled on. Well, very cool. And Christie, how about y'all? What's the day in the life looking like for y'all now?
Oh man, just depending on the day of the week, I guess. Typically, I try to start off my mornings with a lot of the admin work. So I try to get that away as soon as possible, making sure, you know, account reconciliation and the bank account and invoices are paid and sent out and proposals are made. That gets right off the back in the morning. And then after that, it's more so, you know, the hands-on work. So if I'm editing photos, graphic design, building a brand, when I'm in meetings, it usually all happens in the afternoon. And then if it gets, depending on the day, like I said, we'll have actual team meetings that happen after hours just to kind of recoup, make sure everyone stays in the loop, update our task manager, and then it starts all over again. But today is Wednesday. So it's half price games at Dave & Buster's. So I'm going to be over there after today. It's so important, you know, as a startup to always make sure you're having time for yourself. And that looks like a number of different things. But yeah, I love video games. So
yeah, no, that's critical. Whether it's video games or workout routine, you got to focus on yourself if you're going to be any good to your company. And what's it look like at D-Web? Walk us through a day in your life.
Well, every day is definitely different, and I think it's the case for everyone here. But it's, you know, as for me, I'm the chief marketing officer, so I focus heavily on marketing related tasks. You know, we have a CFO and a CEO who deal with more of the investor side and the cash flow and contracts and all that type of admin work. So for me, first thing I do is you know, get up and drink probably 2 cups of coffee at least, and go through and I knock out my emails. That's the first thing, you know, put out fires, get back to people. I like to have quick response times, things like that. And then I kind of go towards transition to doing in the morning more of the creative marketing type work. So developing marketing materials, coordinating with, you know, graphic design and marketing agency we have up in Austin. And I tried to do that because I feel like my creativity is maxed out in the morning, you know, and I can work on blog posts and I can get that done pretty quickly. And so when we move into the afternoon, that's when I do meetings. That's when I head up to the Geekdom office. And then after that, towards the end of the day, that's when I handle all the, you know, admin tasks like scheduling things, filling out paperwork that I have, anything like that. So I kind of transition. It's kind of like start out with creative, and then my brain, you know, as my brain becomes more and more fried, move on to more routine rote type work.
Yeah, I think across the board from everybody, and I definitely know it's the case with us, there's more paperwork involved with driving and running a business than I ever knew was possible. I don't think anybody likes it, but it has to get done, right?
Mhm.
Well, as everybody knows, we're living through some historic times, right? Once in a century times right now. In some cases, that's been good for the business, opening up new opportunities that weren't there before. In other cases, it's made things harder. For y'all, what are some wins and losses that you think have come about as a result of COVID and the times we're living through right now? Ken, I'm gonna tee that up to you. What do you think?
Oh, sorry about that. I would say, the most difficult part of it is networking. Because I came from the school of going to in-person professional networking events. You go in,
Right.
get 20 cards, walked out, hit them up later, and so it's a very new and different way of doing things, having to do Zoom calls like this. And so, I think I learned a lot having to kind of think on my feet a little bit and kind of reorient how I approach things. And I think that's a skill that's been, very important during this time, is being adaptable.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, not thinking in like a single tunnel, oh, this is how we do things. And I think that helps in a lot of ways across the board. You can kind of do things that bring value to the company that may seem unorthodox or you might not have thought of before.
I know networking is definitely a thing I think we're all missing, particularly at a place like Geekdom. Nick Longo called it the collision of ideas that just naturally happens when you've got a building full of people trying to build cool stuff. But have y'all found a way to replace that to a degree in the times we're in right now?
Fortunately, we do a lot of B2B type business. That's what our smart device sales, that's targeted at business. So, if it's not as much of a public facing product, so it's not as difficult as it could have been. But I think the idea is you have to be a little bolder about, emailing people and trying to get in the door, because people aren't as responsive necessarily over email versus, phone calls or face-to-face, obviously, and they get an email and that's just words on paper and they don't know a face, they don't know, no idea who you are. So it's just having to be, I think, a little more persistent about things, and being willing to send, follow-up emails, a month later if you haven't heard back, and keeping track of all that and being organized about that.
That's good. Max, you decided not just to start a business in the middle of a global pandemic, but move to a whole full-on different country. Yeah. What's it been like starting a business in these times? And, are you finding that easier, you think, or challenges, or what's that been like for you?
I can really tell because I'm just at the initial stage. And as you want to say that I'm crazy, but we need to be crazy to become entrepreneurs. And my family thought that we are crazy because I took my wife and my 2-year-old kid. So they thought that I'm risking it all and just all in. And that's exactly what I did. But I think it's the best time to start a business and become entrepreneurs, because everybody's starting at the same point. We are starting at the same level. It doesn't matter how big the companies are. You are starting, you have the chance to start from the same level. So I think it's the best time.
Yeah, I think that's huge, and regardless of how big your company was, all of a sudden around March 2020, none of us knew what the heck was going on, right? Mm-hmm. And that is a great equalizer for a startup. And in some cases that can be a bigger advantage, because you can move quicker than a giant company you're trying to compete against, right? Well, that's awesome. What about you, Terry? What's how's COVID affected you? Good, bad, indifferent? What's it been like for y'all?
Well, the way COVID has impacted, actually, I'd say it gave us purpose, right? I mean, before COVID, I was working, with a different agenda, see a problem, solve it, trying to build a company. But I guess textbook style, you see a problem, come up with a solution. So that's naturally what I'm inclined to do as a person myself. So when COVID hit, I was literally out here, downtown on Houston Street, walking around trying to test out the NFC, trying to, talking to the different businesses. But when COVID hit, it was no one outside, and I was in my apartment, and I realized we had a big problem. So that means we're gonna need a big solution, right? So it just gave so much purpose. It just gave me a purpose-driven life, and now I'm here trying to get educate the market and get the market to adopt, the community to adopt social technology, because that's a solution that was born from it.
That's awesome. Are you finding, because of COVID, that customers or potential clients are more open to trying this contactless solution than they were before?
Well, it's a little mix of both, I tell you. I've seen it all so far. I mean, after that, I've seen me about, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th time talking to them and stuff like that, or just enjoying their facility. They kind of warm up to me. And also, like when COVID hit, like literally, like, I mean, when I say when the day of the shutdown, I remember having a conversation on the river like 3 days before the shutdown over by Caserio. And on my way to Caserio, I passed a few other restaurants, and I talked with like a GM, a guy that was a chef. He was carrying boxes down to the basement. They was boarding stuff up. And here I am with a camera and some NFC chips, just every day, just out trying to see what's going on and test it out and stuff. And I remember having that tough conversation with him, and he was like, I don't know what's going to happen. And I remember I was like, man, I'm actually living through a tough time myself personally. So I understand where he's headed, because I was kind of coming from it, just different levels, different devils. And it just ignited just the passion, it just ignited the drive, just to bring, a solution. And today the solution is social technology to the market. So, I mean, I don't know if that really answers your question, but yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And Christie, y'all are digital storytellers, which all of a sudden was more relevant than ever before, right? I imagine it's been a good thing for y'all, but what are some wins and some losses you and the team have run through since COVID hit us?
Yeah, no, you are hitting it right on the nail with that one. For the longest time, we've been preaching, the importance of building an online audience, the importance of having your social networks, make sure you're telling a story, your narrative, all of that for so long. And when, you're already established and you already have, whether it's a brick and mortar or really more pertaining to the brick and mortars, and you've been there for some time, you have a steady flow, that you don't really see the importance of it, right? And then when the pandemic hit, it became kind of a sink or swim ordeal, right? The only thing that came with that, right, because it's a double-edged sword, is they no longer had the funds to cover all of it. So that was kind of like the catch-22 that we were dealing with. It's just, these people who now see the importance of building an online audience now suddenly don't really have the extra funds to start building it out. And fortunately for us, like I said earlier, is we've been building that audience for ourselves for a very, very long time. We've been building a network that we've always been appreciative of, from the very beginning. And fortunately for us, that's really what carried us through until things started lightening up. For me personally, as a digital creator, I relied really heavily on event photography for kind of like steady income, because I'm a freelancer, I'm a contractor. Like I really do. If I don't put in the work, I don't get nothing back. And that's the same for all of us for a sense, right? When you're in a startup and you're working for yourself, like that holds true. And so obviously when the pandemic hit, events stopped happening. And I was like, well, I can graphic design, so I had to pivot. I had to adapt to the times. And so, I began to fall back in love with that part of the industry. That's what got me into the creative part of everything, was graphic design. I think I was like 14 years old when I designed my own brochure for my parents' company. And so it just kind of brought all those nostalgic memories back. And I think that's what the pandemic did for a lot of people. It kind of made you look at yourself and where you are currently. And I agree with everyone else, like, you have to have that baby, right? One day, and it just kind of happened now.
Yeah.
But, life happens.
For sure. Yeah, I think we're all living different journeys. And, like Max said, you just got to go. And that's part of running businesses, right? I don't think any of us really know what we're doing. We just go, and eventually the market helps us figure it out, right? So Max, we'll start off with you. I know whether they're listening now or catching it later on Facebook, there's somebody that's going to watch this that has an idea, wants to start a business, and they just haven't gotten out of their seat yet, right? What advice would you give, other than just go, which I love? That's my favorite advice ever. Just get started. But what else? What else would you say to someone that's got an idea, or maybe they just got started? What advice would you be to someone that wants to be in your shoes 4 months from now?
Okay, I'm a little bit biased, but the first year of your startup, the first year as an entrepreneur, the only thing you want to do is to quit. You don't have enough users. It doesn't go the way you thought it will. There are, so don't quit. First of all, don't quit. You just need to think of creative ways to develop the product or bring more traction, or pivot if it's needed to, but don't quit. That's the first tip that I need to accentuate. Don't quit. And read books, read from other failures. I mean, people write books on their failures, how they did it, and people don't read the books. Just read the book, learn from it, and apply it. So, as I said, just do it. You learn from the books, and then you just do it, but the right way.
Yeah.
And of course, there are things that will go wrong, and you need to adapt, and you need to find your way. But if you will read more, you will make less mistakes, that's what we want, to be to do less mistakes, not to do mistakes at all, but doing less mistakes.
Yeah. That's huge. I'd say at this point, any mistake that was going to be made, someone else has already made it and probably wrote a book about it, right? So if you can learn from others instead of learning the hard way, that's a huge advantage.
Yes.
But the whole not quit thing, I know we've definitely lived it too, and I'm sure all of y'all have. At some point, if it ain't hard, it's probably not worth doing, right? If it's that's just as true in business and physical workouts, learning a new skill. I imagine learning English is probably not overly easy either. But anything worth doing is worth doing till you feel like quitting, and then doing a little more. That's solid. What about you, Ken? What would your advice be to someone that wants to be in your shoes?
And I had to bounce off something Max said earlier, which is about, just go, just execute, right? So kind of what we did with D-Web, we started kind of brainstorming, what the company was going to do, I'd say mid-February or so. And we did that for a couple of weeks. We did like some feasibility to see, okay, if we do this, will the finances work out in, 6 months, years time? Because it is a business ultimately, and you have to think about, okay, you want more money coming in than going out. That's ultimately where you want to be, the end goal. But once you do that, it's best, like once you do your due diligence, you can't overthink from that point. You just got to get started. So I remember, you know, it was like one night we sat down in my CEO's house and, you know, made the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram pages, made a basic website, registered the domain, and filed legal paperwork, you know, incorporate, and just got all that done at once. Because, I mean, that's not expensive to do. That's stuff you can do up front and get started immediately without any real upfront costs, without having to worry about getting investments, anything like that. Yeah. And yeah, so those are my 2 pieces of advice. Always remember that it's a business, and think about, you know, is this product or investment I'm going to make going to give me a return that's greater than the initial investment, right? And just execute on your game plan and don't think about it too hard.
That's solid. And I'm gonna follow up with you, Ken, because y'all are, you know, past the just getting started idea stage. You know, you guys are a little more established. You mentioned you're self-sustainable. Yes. You know, for someone that it's hard to even see that part of the journey when you just have an idea, right? Yeah. But what steps do you think are critical at the beginning to kind of think out or map out or execute on to make sure, you know, you get to the point where you're a sustainable business that can continue to grow and build?
Well, we approached it, I think, in a little bit of a different way, which was, you know, I mentioned with the hotspot system and IoT reseller, we were like, okay, what are things that we can invest in right now that will, we can build a sustainable business off of, you know, if we work our tails off, obviously. And so we did that. And the idea was, okay, now these other ideas we have for products we can develop internally, now we can fund those. Nice. And we can avoid, you know, diluting equity, things like that too much. And so for the game plan, it's just, you know, you're thinking of your own product, you know, just do your market research. We have a little spreadsheet for finances, you know, just think of all that and, you know, make sure things are, because you aren't going to know exactly how it's going to go, you know, in the next 6 months to a year, but just make sure things are in a range you find acceptable, you know, so that in a year's time you've worked hard and you have something that you can, you know, hang your hat on at that point.
Solid. And Christie, y'all's team's a little more established as well. And you mentioned something at the beginning that, you know, I know us and our team went through, where you get to a point, you're like, all right, now it's time to explode this thing. You know, what advice, I guess, would you have for a founder or a team that are past the getting started stage, but now they're ready to push for something bigger? What would you say for that mid-stage kind of team right there?
No, yeah, definitely. I think it needs to have a little bit of reflection, right? So sometimes when you are at that kind of middle stage, that threshold where like the next step is to just explode, there needs to be definitely a reflection and humble session of like, okay, where do we come from, right? Let's look at our mission statement again. Let's remember our whys. Let's go back to the reason why we're doing this to begin with, right? And let's take this information and implement it moving forward with everything that we do, right? It's all about consistency and communication, right? So one thing that happens, especially if you're project-based, which is, you know, what we are, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of different kinds of people, different clients, different companies, different project managers. Everyone's kind of doing their own separate things, but it's all supposed to be working together. And when you're not communicating or don't have established channels for communication, all of that can easily fall through. And then that's when the ball gets dropped, right? You know, one thing we always try to encourage people to really think of, you know, besides the company itself and how you fit within it, is how is the company perceived to everyone else who is working with it, right? If you're hiring contractors, if you're talking with clients, like, does that tone and voice in which you speak through and represent your company stay consistent? And another thing is qualifying, which is another, I think I'd say is the last one. And understanding that when you're at that threshold, not every inbound or outbound lead is a success. Sometimes it's not even a good match. And that's something that I think everyone kind of figures out as they continue on towards that threshold to begin with, but needs to understand that moving afterwards, not every person who knocks on your door is going to be your next lead, whether that's from their side or whether that's from your side. You know, sometimes it just doesn't work out for the better. You know, so that's kind of my advice. I know it's a little bit all over the place, but it's a lot, obviously, when you're at that point.
Yeah, running a business is all over the place, right? But I think, you know, all the good companies that continue to grow and thrive are basically a new company, a new startup every year or so, right? And that's part of it. Terry, the stage you're in right now is, I think, one of the most critical parts, which is you got a product, you know, went from idea to product, and now it's user and customer feedback, which can be exciting, and it can be brutal and heartbreaking, and usually some combination of all of that. What would your advice be for someone that's at your stage? They passed the idea, they got up, they got started, they got something, now they're ready to go into the world and get feedback.
I'd say the best advice I think at this point I had to give would be win or win, right? You know, just keep that type of mentality, you know, just it'll help maintain, you know, positive psyche and positive traction through all of it. You know, just keep in your mind, win or win.
Yeah, I like that.
Sure.
You know, and sometimes when a customer says no, if you listen to what's beyond the no, you know, that leads you to what's going to be the more of the yes, right?
Yes,
well, it has been awesome getting to meet y'all, getting to learn about all y'all's companies. Definitely excited to get everybody moving back into geekdom now that we can do it safely. We just moved in on the 8th floor, so if y'all are up here, swing by and say hi. And I hopefully anybody that listened or will watch this down the road got something out of it. So thanks to all of our panelists. Thanks to Geekdom. Thanks to the San Antonio Startup Week team. And we'll see y'all around.
That's good. Thank you.